to propose a toast to the alumni, the Sisters of Charity, to whom we owe so much, and the alma mater. Ladies and gentlemen, raise your glasses to Mount St. Vincent University.
Let us pray. Kind and gracious God, we praise and thank you today as we gather to celebrate the achievements of the graduates of 1987. We especially praise and thank you for the families and friends, professors and staff of this university who have guided and supported them in their journey to this day. We ask you to bless us with an awareness of your presence and gifts, and a sense of being at one and at home with you and one another during the ceremony of convocation. Bless these graduates with a keen awareness of your love, that at home in themselves, they may offer their gifts and talents in the service of others. This we ask of you, eternal God, in whom we live, move, and come home. Amen.
Most Reverend Chancellor, Mr. Minister, distinguished guests, graduands, alumni, and other friends of Mount St. Vincent University. We are here to celebrate a very special occasion. And I'm glad that in our opening prayer, we have especially mentioned those who are members of families and the friends who are here to celebrate with us. I would like to begin by thanking all those who have planned and prepared this occasion and made it possible for us to enjoy. I especially would like to mention the members of staff who take care of so many of the duties that most of us do not see: readying the rooms, raking the lawns and preparing the flower beds, rehearsing the proceedings with us, and looking after all sorts of other details. And we do want to thank all those who prepared for the celebrations of Graduate Week as well. I would especially like to take this occasion to thank our Chancellor for making sure that he could be here with us for these celebrations today. It meant that he had to come to us from Ottawa and interrupt a journey to Rome. He will be catching a plane at 7:30 or so tonight and has to travel overnight just so that he could be here with us. Let's thank him especially. I'm sure you realize that his gesture is just one of the many that reflects the sense of community that we have here at the Mount and the kind of environment that delights all of us to the core. This morning I mentioned that I think our convocation this year is introducing another first for women, perhaps for women in all universities in Canada, because you probably observed that Dr. Olga Broomfield is our mace bearer. She has now completed her term as the chair of our Convocation Committee, and we do thank her and all the members of the committee for ensuring that this is a significant ceremony appropriate to the celebration of the scholarly achievements of the many who are graduating today. During my remarks at the convocation ceremony held this morning, I commented on two outstanding developments that have taken place during the 1986-87 academic year. Firstly, the announcement in January of funding by the Government of Nova Scotia that will enable the university to make a final payment to the Sisters of Charity for Evaristus Hall and the land on which it is situated, although no amount of money could possibly repay their contribution to this university. This significant gesture on the part of the government indicates in a very practical way the high regard accorded the Sisters of Charity for their vision and leadership and service to women, which has given women access to opportunities to higher education here at Mount St. Vincent University. And secondly, the completion this month of the plans for the new building to be erected just south of the building we occupy now. This is a direct result of your announcement, Mr. Minister, just 1 year ago, that the province had recognized the growth in size and stature of the university and its pressing requirements for space to accommodate the library, the computer center, our media services, and our distance education teaching facilities. We anticipate that construction will begin in the fall and that by this time next year we will see the E. Margaret Fulton Communication Center taking shape just south of where we are meeting now, with a walkway to provide convenient access from this building. Now I would like to mention two special events that took place just this past week, which symbolize another of the significant developments that have been taking place at the Mount over the years. The first was an appreciation night held for the children of students who are receiving their degrees at Convocation this year. 23 children received certificates of appreciation from their parents, which read, and I quote, "This award is in recognition of the patience and understanding you have displayed during the years I have been attending Mount St. Vincent University. You deserve a round of applause for putting up with craft dinner on class nights, falling asleep to the sound of my typewriter, and cheering me up with your smile and a hug when I did poorly on a paper. I love you." The second event was the dinner sponsored jointly by the Mount Association of Non-Traditional Students and the Student Council for students who are 25 years or older, who may be attending on a part-time basis, but all of whom who find that the counseling and support and encouragement they receive at the Mount have helped them and indeed are critical to them in the achievement of their goals. This afternoon, as well as this morning, degrees are being conferred on students who are parents and, in some cases, grandparents. We are particularly pleased that Mabel and Joseph Kennedy will be receiving their degrees today together, and that their 4 children, all of whom are university graduates, are expected to be here to share in the celebration of their parents' achievements. This afternoon, we will confer a degree on Marion McDonald, the mother of one of this year's graduates in the Bachelor of Child Study program, who received her degree this morning. And earlier, we awarded the first certificates in gerontology completed entirely through distance education via television broadcasts and on-site seminars to 2 people from Yarmouth County. And as I said this morning, it was perhaps appropriate that they were not with us. All of these examples vividly demonstrate the changes that have been taking place at the Mount. Last year, we enrolled just under 4,000 students. 83.3% were women. 42.3% of all students were enrolled on a part-time basis. 41.1% of all students were between 24 and 49 years of age. These proportions are significant because they reflect the reality of our student body as well as the achievement of one of the Mount's goals, that of providing accessibility, particularly for women, but for all those who want to catch up, come back, and achieve the kind of goals for themselves that they'd long hoped to do so. And we offer that in an environment characterized by caring and personal attention. The proportions within our student body are also significant because they are indicative of what is happening now in universities everywhere in Canada. The Mount has been at the forefront in providing for these changes by offering undergraduate programs with an emphasis on excellent teaching for non-traditional students and for part-time students. Students who simply cannot attend classes on a full-time basis, who indeed may be living in sparsely populated, relatively isolated areas, and who often have to combine responsibilities as parents and as employees, along with studying and attendance at classes. We have learned from these students here at the Mount. These students are exemplary models of determination and perseverance, and their scholarly achievements put to rest many of the notions that were once held that only those who have outstanding records of achievement at school will succeed at university. Now we look forward to the day when the support for universities provided by the Maritime Provinces Higher Education Commission will be allocated on a basis that recognizes the real worth of part-time students. Such reform in the funding formula would be much more equitable, obviously, and of benefit to so many of the students here at Mount St. Vincent and in other universities situated like ours. I would like to report to you many more of the Mount's achievements, but it would be impossible for me to mention all of them without lengthening this afternoon's proceedings beyond endurance. I do want to note, however, that 4 students of this year's graduating class were nominated by faculty as candidates for the National Science and Engineering Research Council Awards to support graduate studies, and that all 4 of our Mount nominees have won the awards. I would also like to recognize Sister Sheila Martin as this year's recipient of the 1987 Alumni Master Teacher Award. When we at the Mount say that we value good teaching, we take great pleasure in being able to make this award. Finally, I wish to pay tribute to 2 of my colleagues who will be completing terms of service this year. Dr. Pauline Jones, Vice President Academic, and Sister Margaret Young. May I express on behalf of all of us in the university our gratitude for their commitment to this university and to our students and to their colleagues, those of us on the faculty. Will you join now with me in expressing our thanks to them? Now, together, let us celebrate the achievement of our graduands.
Your Grace, Madam President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow graduates. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the graduating class of 1987 for allowing me the honor of being valedictorian today. As I look at us all at this moment, I have to ask myself, are we those same people who tackled registration that first day and who actually survived it? Are we those same people who successfully made the adjustment from high school to university? And we all know how difficult that was. I am sure we were all warned about the great amount of work to be done, but few of us actually believed it until we found ourselves knee-deep in assignments, readings, and term papers. Are we those same people who dozed in the halls between classes? Who passed many a nuit blanche cramming for exams, and who rushed around at the last minute to complete assignments, and yet who even managed to find time to party at the Mount Bashes? Are we those same people? Today we project such a distinguished image. This day marks a turning point in our lives. The day for which we have all worked so very hard has finally arrived. Not only is this one of the happiest days of our lives, but it is also one of the saddest and perhaps the most frightening. Sad due to the fact that our relatively carefree university days have come to an end. And frightening because the most difficult test is about to begin, the test of life, whereby each and every one of us will be required to face the real world, a world of new challenges, new horizons, and of course, a world of potential unemployment. Our future is also exciting. We now possess the means to pursue those goals we have each set for ourselves. During our years at Mount St. Vincent University, each and every one of us has undergone a sort of metamorphosis, if you will. We have grown and developed, and we are now ready to leave our cocoons and are ready to move on to bigger and better things. Keep in mind, however, that today does not mark the end of our education. It is merely the beginning. As R.S. Peters, an educational philosopher, once stated, to be educated, philosophy of education, to be educated is not to have arrived at a destination. It is to travel with a different view. Our education has not reached an end. There is no one ultimate end to education. We will all continue to grow and learn throughout our lifetime. The time is at hand when we must begin to put the theory we have learned to practice to the test. It is time to transform that theory into practice. How are we to go about this, you might ask? Well, to begin, I would like to ask the graduating class to please rise and shake the hand of the person to your right and to your left. Behind you, in front of you, yes. Thank you. Please sit down. I realize that this is only a very small-scale demonstration, but it is to show us how easy something can be if we really put our minds to it. I wanted you all to rise, so I discovered a means of doing so. I requested that you all rise. I had you in the palm of my hand, so to speak. I have the power, as do we all. We have the world in the palm of our hands. It is ours for the taking. We can do anything we want within reason if we only put our minds to it and pursue our goals. Our lives are all that we make of them. We will have to work hard to achieve our goals, but in the end, I'm sure it will be well worth the effort. I wish everyone the best for the future, and God bless.
Your Grace, it is my privilege to present to you the candidates for the collegiate honors of graduation. I attest that they have successfully completed the required courses of study, and I ask that they be admitted to the baccalaureate degree. Mount St. Vincent University confers the degree
of Bachelor of Arts on Jacqueline L. Baxter.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities pertaining to that degree.
Angela Bidnost.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Susan M. Blakeney, who is also the recipient of the Danny Weston Memorial Prize in French.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
John Brookfield.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Carol Marie Campbell.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Lorraine G. Carroll, with distinction and with the highest aggregate.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Dale Coates.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations, Dale.
Dana Kuhn.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Leanne Cooney.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Debbie Driscoll.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Heather Marie Farwell, with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Maureen Ferguson.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Angela Sylvia Fisher.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Alan James Fogarty.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations, Alan.
Roxanne Fogwell, with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Catherine Ann Ford.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Lois W. Gage.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Barbara E. Garland.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Darlene Grant.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Hillary Grant.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Karen Hastings.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Sharon Leslie Heyman.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Janet Dale Hogg.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Margaret Elizabeth Job.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Doreen Johnston.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Sarah Greer Kaiser.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Joseph P. Kennedy.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations, Joe.
Mabel M. Kennedy.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Elaine LaPierre.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Barbara Ann LeBlanc, with distinction and recipient of the Psychology Department Award for exemplary achievement in the Bachelor of Arts.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Congratulations, Barbara. That's
Lorna Ann McCormick.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Catherine McDonald.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Sister Barbara Martell, with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Marion Hope Burris MacDonald, with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Darlene McKenna, with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Congratulations.
Wanda Maloney.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Susan Elizabeth Millard.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Thank you.
Karen
Congratulations.
Oikel.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Janice Marie O'Neill.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Ellen Parker.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Marie
to you.
Paturel.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
John P. Pelton.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations,
Janice
Mark.
M. Pisco.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Shirley Plamondon.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations. to you.
Sohani Ramnarine.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations. to you.
Carla Ann Riley.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Gabrielle Mary Rockneen, and recipient of the Sister Mary
admit you to the
Agnes
degree of
Prize in
Bachelor of
English.
Congratulations, Gabriel.
Cindy Ryan.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations to you.
Lisa Catherine Smith.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Paula Spencer.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Karen
Congratulations to you.
E. Steves.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Elizabeth Gilly Stoddard.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
James Peter Symington.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations, James.
Peggy Ann Thayer.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Jan Thomas, Student Union President for 87-88.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
James Bradley Unsworth.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Carolyn Watt.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
Marion W. Wagle.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
Francis E. Yo, with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Congratulations.
The degree of Bachelor of Arts honors with first-class honors with highest aggregate in sociology, and the recipient of the Graduating Sociology Students Prize on Carmen Johnstone.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with first-class honors, with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities pertaining to that degree. Congratulations.
The degree of Bachelor of Arts honors with first-class honors in psychology on Anna M. Redman.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with first-class honors. Congratulations to you.
The degree of Bachelor of Arts honors with first-class honors in sociology and recipient of the Graduating Sociology Students Prize on Diana Steele.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with first class honors. Congratulations.
Honor Certificate in Arts given jointly by Mount St. Vincent University and Dalhousie University in Spanish and French on Avril Vollenhoven.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Arts with first class honors. Congratulations to you.
The degree of Bachelor of Science on Wendy Bentley.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities of that degree. Congratulations to you.
On Kathy Cantwell.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Carmelita Carvery.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Laurie Clark.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Janet Enman.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations to you.
Maria Frederick.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations to you.
Michelle Hache with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Peter Hansen.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science.
Patricia Harrington.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Penelope Joy Henneberry.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science.
Leanne Houston.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science.
Linda R. Keddy.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science.
Joyce Kiley.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Marina Klein with distinction and with the highest aggregate.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science with distinction.
Murray W. Latter.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Jerry E. Longard.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Judith L. McNeil with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science with distinction. Congratulations.
Shelley Jeanette McEwen.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science.
Patricia Oakley with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science with distinction. Congratulations.
Sherry A. Robertson.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Melissa Rose Sparks.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science. Congratulations.
Monica Sweetapple.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science.
Adele Leanne Walker with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science with distinction. Congratulations.
The degree of Bachelor of Science honors with first class honors in psychology on Mary Elizabeth Farmer. Also, Psychology Department Award for exemplary achievement in the honors program and who has been awarded an NSERC postgraduate scholarship in experimental psychology.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Science honors with first class honors with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities pertaining to that degree.
The degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Education in the integrated program with distinction in the Bachelor of Education on Deborah Lynn Campbell.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Education, with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities of those degrees. Congratulations to you.
Catherine Maria Collicott, with distinction in the Bachelor of Education.
I admit you to the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Education.
Wanda Margaret Fahey, with distinction in the Bachelor of Education.
I admit you to the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Janice Patricia Flynn.
I admit you to the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
The degree of Bachelor of Education in association with Nova Scotia Teachers College on Keith Andrews.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities of that degree. Congratulations to you.
June D. Charlton.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Barbara Gorham.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Blaine Lewis Hurtle.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Albert Jollymore.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Corinne Larder.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Marcia McGilvery.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Norman Mitchell.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Rosemarie Nouse.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Kevin Newcomb.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Owen Parker.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Michelle Redman.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Shirley Ann Rogers.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Michael W. Sangster.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Patricia Simon.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Janet Smiley.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Frederick Harry Sullivan.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Susan Withrow.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
The degree of Bachelor of Education on Nancy Anthony.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Stacy Lisette Anthony with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
George Paul Arab.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Ronald Bulmer.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations.
Mary Louise Carmen Crespo.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Mary Beth Culleton with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Carol Dean.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Diane Doré with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations.
Ellen Doucette with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Heather Dowell with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education.
Patricia Fellows Sampson.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations.
Madonna Flood with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Teresa Francis with distinction and with the highest aggregate.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Beverly Fraser with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Janice E. Gavin with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations.
Maureen Rita Gillespie with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Robert R. Henderson.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations.
Deborah Higgs with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Thank you very much.
Huina Ives.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Julie Jacobs with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations.
Kimberly Ann King with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Danielle Marie McDonald.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Lorna McDonald with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Catherine Louise McKinnon with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Sheila Maureen McKinnon with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations.
Donna Leah Marsh with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Marilyn McCann with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Sharon Breen McDonald.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Andrea Miriam.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Ruth P. Murtaugh with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Rebecca A. Napier with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Cheryl O'Melia with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations.
Michelle Quinn with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Darlene Rizesko with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations to you.
Gayleen Sabine with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Brenda Smallshaw.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Valerie A. Smith with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction.
Mary P. Stevens.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Gladstone Thompson.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Gail Vardy.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations to you.
Donna Wysant.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education. Congratulations.
Dawn Ann White with distinction.
I admit you to the degree of Bachelor of Education with distinction. Congratulations.
Your Grace, it is my privilege to present to you the candidates for the collegiate honors of graduation. I attest that they have successfully completed the required courses of study, and I ask that they be admitted to the master's degree. Mount St. Vincent University confers the degree of Master of Education on Ruby A. Behringer.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Master of Education with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities pertaining to that degree.
Lois Burns.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Jennifer Percy Fu.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Mona Jean Currens.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Martha Gabriel.
Master of Education.
Joyce Holmans.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Mary Kerwin.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Catherine Longmore.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education. Congratulations to you.
Patricia Joan McLean.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Harry Francis McNeil.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education. Congratulations to you.
Raylene O'Leary.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Timothy J. Payne.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Nancy Roach.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Annette M. Short.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Gwendolyn Silk.
Congratulations to you. I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
Sally Summers.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education. Congratulations to you.
Christina Trussler.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education. Congratulations to you.
Oliver Wenzel.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education. Congratulations, all.
W. Alexander Young.
I admit you to the degree of Master of Education.
The degree of Master of Arts in Education on Cynthia Shirley Giffen.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Master of Arts in Education with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities of that degree. Congratulations to you.
The degree of Master of Arts in School Psychology on Marilyn J. Ball.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I admit you to the degree of Master of Arts in School Psychology with all the rights and privileges and responsibilities pertaining to that degree. Congratulations to you.
In addition, we confer the appropriate degrees on all those not present today whose names are listed in the program.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I ask that degrees be conferred in absentia on those persons who have been designated by the Dean.
Ladies and gentlemen, please refer to your programs for the words of Gariamos, and that is on page 21. This is the graduate song. However, the graduates do not intend to sing it alone. In fact, they are counting on your enthusiastic support. Mary Kelly will lead us in song, and the Stadacona Band is ready to accompany us. Right.
Please stand.
We have this afternoon 2 special awards. The first is the Gamma Gamma Pi Award. Membership in Gamma Gamma Pi Honor Society of Catholic Universities for Women is awarded to graduates who, in addition to high scholastic standings and a good record in extracurricular activities, gives promise of academic leadership in the future. This afternoon, we give the award to Michelle Hache, BSc with distinction. The President's Prizes. Special mementos donated by the University President are awarded to members of the graduating class who have given evidence of best fulfilling the university ideals of self-sacrifice and all-round cooperation, and who give promise of continued loyalty to the alma mater. This afternoon, these awards go to Marina Klein and Judith McNeil, both BScs with distinction. 22 students, both graduating in biology, have shown what is possible for students here at the Mount, and they exemplify what is our goal: to open the field of science to ever more women. And to that end, we are planning a fund drive for more facilities in science. Both of these students are on the Dean's List, have received NSERC Summer Student Scholarships, have been interviewed for places in the medical school at McGill, and are hopefully awaiting openings, have been very active in, and each in turn have served as vice president of our very active Science Society, which last year won the Student Council Award, Society Award of the Year. Both have read papers at the Atlantic University Undergraduate Biology Conference. In addition, Marina Klein has served as the Student Council Science Representative and been very active in Student Council affairs in general. Her enthusiasm has spilled over into other fields, and last year she won first prize in a national student conference sponsored by the Association of Canadian Studies on science, technology, and ethics. In addition to all of the other things I mentioned, Judith has been an all-round member of the Mount community. She has been a member of the Mount Students' Assistance, our orientation committee, has been very active in athletics as a member of our soccer team, basketball team, our winning volleyball team, and this year won the Windsor Flash Trophy for the student athlete with the highest academic standing. I think I said earlier there were 2 special prizes this afternoon. There are 3. The Governor General's Medal is a gold medal donated by Her Excellency, the Governor General of Canada, and is given for the highest aggregate in the senior year. This afternoon, this award goes to Mary Elizabeth Farmer, BSc Honors with first-class honors in psychology.
Chancellor, Madam President, happy graduates, and honored guests. I have the honor and the great pleasure today to present Antonine Maillet, scholar, teacher, novelist, playwright, and incidentally, one of the most dynamic and charming people I've ever come across, as you will find out in a second. As a critic has said, with Antonine Maillet, l'Acadie entre dans la grande littérature. As far as Mount St. Vincent is concerned, Antonine Maillet hardly needs an introduction. We knew her and we loved her long before she came here today. For her most poignant and charming creation, the Sagouine, has appeared among us many times, complete with her bucket, her mop, and her infinite wisdom. And the person who incorporated her is sitting right across from me, grinning broadly. The author of the Sagouine was born in Bouctouche, New Brunswick, in the heart of Acadia, one of a family of 9 children. Her parents both taught school, and from them, and from the sisters who provided her formal education, she conceived a passionate love of teaching. She taught at the Académie de Notre-Dame de l'Acadie in Moncton, and later, after obtaining a master's degree, a licence ès lettres, and a doctorate at the universities of Laval and Montreal. Unlike other PhD students who slave away at dissertations in narrowly specialized fields and far removed from their real lives, Antonine Maillet used her thesis to explore an area of very real and personal concern. In Rabelais et les traditions populaires en Acadie, she explores the link between the language and folklore of her own people and their 16th century antecedents. In fact, the entire Maillet opus is a living monument to the culture of Acadia, a culture which is essentially oral tradition and folklore, and therefore, sadly, in danger of extinction. It is the great achievement of Antonine Maillet to have created a living monument to this culture and to have preserved it. She has served her people not only as a writer, but as what you might call a cultural conservationist. She wrote her first novel, Pointe au Coq, in 1958, and she has been producing prolifically ever since. Her characters are taken from the ambiance of her Acadian background. When she created the Sanguine, she was going back to the concept, long past, of a vapid and long-suffering Evangeline, the one we all know very well. To this long-suffering character, she has very boldly substituted a series of energetic, life-affirming survivor figures. Survivor figures like her Maria Gila, who runs a successful rum smuggling operation out of the convent chapel, her irrepressible Sanguine, and perhaps most impressive, her expatriate Evangeline Deus, who proudly boasts that she thinks nothing of belonging to a race who can start life over again at the ripe old age of 80. Antonine Maillet is the recipient of a long and very impressive list of honors and awards. I'll just mention one here, the most prestigious, the Prix Goncourt, awarded to her in 1979 for her novel Pélagie la Charrette. She is, in fact, the first American and only the 6th woman to receive this highly coveted literary award. However, I think that perhaps to the author, the highest reward consists in the recognition and love of her own people, who have made her characters part of their own oral tradition. For all of them who have been silent for so long, the Sanguine and her sisters speak out, loud and clear, in the resonant tones of their ancestors. In recognition of her literary achievement, of her dedication to her cultural patrimony, and above all, to her unremitting battle against oppression and against social injustice, I ask you, Reverend Chancellor, to confer upon Antonine Maillet the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
On behalf of the Senate of Mount St. Vincent University, I ask you, Antonine Maillet, to accept the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa from this university, with all the rights and privileges and honors pertaining to that degree.
Your Grace, Chancellor, Madam President, fellow graduates, and ladies and gentlemen. During lunch period, I've heard many telling me, we're looking forward to your performance, which means I have to perform. That's a great expectation. Well, I will tell you that one said, when I asked, what time is the convocation going to end? He answered, that depends on you. It will end shortly. I will tell you that I am very happy to be here. I am happy because I am proud and because I have such memories of Nova Scotia. My memories of Nova Scotia go as far as 350 years ago. And it all happened around here. For both of us, for you and for me. And that's why Canada exists. We are the very beginning of it all. And when people come to you or to me and say, oh, you know, you used to be colonials, or you come from very far away, or are you still alive? I've heard that quite often in Montreal. You mean the Acadians have came back from deportation? Well, then I have to scratch my own bones and figure out that I am still alive. Well, not only we, both you and I, are still alive, but maybe we have something to tell to the rest of the world, to the rest of Canada and to the world. I'm not going to make a very scholarly speech because I know what a graduation is. I've gone through a few. And I know at that moment and this special time of the graduation, you're thinking of something else but speeches. But I would like to give you just not a message, because the author of La Sagouine cannot give messages, but she can just plant a little germ, just give you a little hint of maybe what can be expected from us. And first I must apologize for this big tongue I have in my mouth when I speak English, you know. This is not really my mother tongue. What I want to hint on is that the first people, European people, to come and stay in North America, even before the Mayflower, before Charleston, before Quebec, yes. I can say that in front of René Lévesque, yes. Was what Champlain did in Port Royal, Nova Scotia. Then, of course, it was called l'Acadie. And it passed from l'Acadie to Nova Scotia for 14 times. Yes, nobody knew that except the King of France and the King of England. Probably they didn't know it either. The Acadians didn't know that they were becoming Nova Scotian, and then the Nova Scotians becoming Acadians, up to 1713, when everything started to be regularized, and it became Nova Scotia. Well, what happened here is what happened afterwards in Canada, and what I want to stress upon is that it was a very great thing. You must remember that when the French came here, they were coming during the 17th century, and the 17th century happened to be l'âge d'or the golden age or the classic age of France. So we did not even come out of the suburbs. We came out of Versailles, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's where the French came from the top of a civilization. And exactly the same thing with the English speaking. You came from the 17th and mostly the 18th century, which was the top of the English period, which means that both of us, both of what were the founded population or people of Canada, came from Europe at the zenith of our civilization. When the French and the English and the Spanish and all of Europe began, it began very low. They came when the Romans were becoming decadent. Then Europe started from down below. But we came from upstairs. We all came from the people that were at the very top of civilization. They were maybe beginning to be decadent when we left. It was good time that we did come here, because we were going to plant here and save something very special, which we did for 3.5 centuries. Now we're just beginning to do something with it. We're just realizing that this is a very, very important heritage, and it all belongs to you and to me. It belongs to us. And more, we are the heir of 2 great nations, and maybe more, because there are a lot of neo-Canadiens also now. We are the heirs of great, great cultures, probably the top great cultures of the Western world, that came at the very top moment here in the greatest land, probably, of the modern world, in North America. So look at the heritage we get from the start. And the start is now, because we just took about 3 or 4 centuries to get acquainted with this land, to find out that it was very fertile, that we could make a living here. But now we have to give it to somebody else, because we really are at the beginning of a new civilization. You know, I have to tell you this because it just happened last week when I was in Washington speaking with great writers of the world, and everyone representing his country, most of them saying, of old cultures, old countries, saying, well, there's nothing going on anymore in literature. The writers don't seem to have anything more to say. We've said it all. And they were lamenting, complaining, in a very decadent style, you know. And when it came my turn to speak, by the way, the last of them all, well, I said, this is really Canada for you. First, you've all invaded my territory, because I was the last to speak and I had no more time left. And then there was an Englishman, an English-Canadian, Robertson Davies, speaking with the British, sitting at the table of the British, and I was sitting at the table of France. So there we were, 2 Canadians, not recognized as something different. We were both British or French. But we are different. And that's what I want to tell you so energetically, that we are different and that we are new and that we have to shake hands, and I wish I could do that with all of you the way you did it a while ago. Shake hands on both sides of Canada, the French group and the English group and all the new Canadians, and say, looking forward, that there's something new for us to do. And that is to tell the old countries, if you have really nothing else to say, well, then let us say it, because we do. We have something now to say, because we never had a tribune before where we never had a platform where we could say it before. For 3 centuries, almost 4 centuries, we had to keep silence. We were represented always by somebody else. Nobody knew that we were still alive. But now we come, and not only we're alive, but we've kept those treasures, almost forgotten, but they are still new. Those treasures are virgins. They have not been touched, and it is for us to give it to the rest of the world, because the whole of civilization is exactly like a symphony. And in a symphony, there must be all the notes. Now, you and I, we have a note, which is a Canadian note, and it is a duet. And that duet is essential for the rest of the world to complete its symphony, because otherwise, ça va fausser, mesdames et messieurs. And we cannot allow that symphony to sound false, with false notes. So from now on, let us all say that it is not a right to be a French Canadian or a right to be an English Canadian. It is an asset for both of us. We're not going to ask, donnez-nous nos droits. No more of that. We know that we have the human rights, and therefore the French Canadian rights and the English Canadian rights. We want more than that. We want to prove to you, and I want you to prove to me, that what you have more, you're going to give it to me. And we have something for you. And if you begin to enter into our world, as we are trying to enter into yours, into your culture, into your history, into your specificity, into your personality, then I will be enriched, and you will be enriched by mine. We have something to show that you don't know. We have a special kind of humor, for instance. We have a special kind of looking at life. And so have you. Well, that is an enrichment for the whole of the country. And that's the only thing that can distinguish us from the rest of North America, and probably from the Western world. We are bicultural. We are a duet. And we are coming from the 2 probably greatest, yes, let's say, performances of civilization of the Western world. And we happen to have inherited it and kept it, and now it is free from contamination and free from, it is not rotten, it is not decadent, it is coming up, and we are the one that are going to offer it to the world. I wish you, graduates of today, that someday you will meet with the Acadian people, the French Canadian people, and that both of us, you and the others, will be able, the best of all would be to speak the other's language, but if not, to understand the other's soul. And that day, we will have a Canada which is amare usque ad mare. Thank you.
Dear Dr. Maillet, it is my honor and pleasure to thank you on behalf of the graduates of 1987 for your wonderful speech. Like you, we have many memories, not only of Nova Scotia, but also of Mount St. Vincent. I think most everyone will agree that your talk was most enlightening and delightful. However, since we are the heirs of many great cultures, it is particularly inspiring for us to see how your determination, initiative, and vigor have enabled you to accomplish so much throughout your life. Hopefully, we as graduates can draw upon your strength so that we too can persevere in whatever field of endeavor we have chosen to follow. Dr. Maillet, our sincerest thanks.
Dear friends, I'd like to add my words of gratitude to Dr. Maillet aussi, also for her beautiful presentation to us of the Canadian mosaic, and for the inspiration that I'm sure we all have felt to try to make it a reality in our society. This has been a great contribution to Mount St. Vincent University, and particularly to this convocation. The President has asked me to say thank you to the Stadacona Band for being present this afternoon and this morning, and for the music that they provided to help us to celebrate. And with gratitude and congratulations to all who deserve it, I declare this convocation closed.